Costume's integral, do you know what I mean, for any character that you play. And I love being a part of that creative process. Do you know what I mean? I'm a kid from a block of flats. I also have posters of Robert De Niro, Al Pacino on my wall. So for me to be in a scene with these men blew my mind. In the 80s, I was tracksuits, I was Adidas trackies. Yeah, so that was my kind of look then back in the day. Hello, I'm Stephen Graham, and this is Lookbook for British Esquire. What a photo. Jack, look at Jack there, Jack O'Connell. Wonderful Jack, Gadget, little Tomo. These costumes were absolutely brilliant. They were real, authentic and true, do you know what I mean? It's a Harrington. It's a make of a Harrington, not the proper Harrington, because the Harringtons were really expensive, do you know what I mean? And these people couldn't afford a Harrington, so they had the knockoff versions, I suppose. And the Ben Sherman shirt combo was a fantastic character, and one that also has a very dear place in my heart. But the costume was a key part of all of this. It really captured that time period, and the costumes were brilliant. They were amazing. And certain times, clothes have a way of making you feel a certain way, and especially without trying to sound pretentious in any way, shape, or form. As an actor, it's the feel, it's the texture. It's like we were saying, you know what I mean? It just really, it really helps bring your character to life, and then working intrinsically in that kind of sense of, you know, the costumes and the ego that each person has within themselves, the egoic state, is informed and is helped by the costumes and by the clothes that we wear, do you know what I mean? And especially with these, because it was all part of that tribe, you felt like that sense of belonging. And yeah, Combo was a very iconic character for me to play, do you know what I mean? It was huge. It was kind of where the journey, where this particular part of my life and this journey really began for me in many ways. In the 80s, I was tracksuits, I was Adidas trackies, kind of velour tracksuits, Adidas first. It was a beautiful kind of Adidas first tracksuit back in the day. Lacoste t-shirts, Pringle jumpers, Adidas Samba, and Adidas Mamba, Trim Trab. I used to wear Trim Trab, and Lacoste. I was obsessed with Lacoste when I was a kid in the 80s. Yeah, so that was my kind of look then back in the day. Tony Pro, what a character. What costume? The marvellous, wonderful, one and only Sandy Powell. What a costume designer. Sandy knows how I kind of get into character as well. I've worked with her before on Gangs of New York, but she kind of knows what it is that I like to. And when I went to meet her in New York, she had a row of, I've just told a story actually, she had a row of shoes, and she had all these amazing shoes, and she was like, there you go, I know how you find your character. And I was looking across them all, and I was like, oh wow. And I found she had these amazing Gucci loafers, but they were like a cream coloured Gucci loafer. And they weren't replicas, they were of the time, so they were vintage. And I put them on, it was like, yeah, there's only a certain kind of person that would wear them kind of shoes, you know what I mean? And this shirt is magnificent. I've got one of these in the wardrobe at home as well. I've never worn it since. But that was that kind of, we wanted to show that kind of loud, gregarious, flamboyant man who was Tony Pro. Because a lot of the footage of Tony that I'd seen, he always, all his shirts were open, and he had that gold chain and Florida tan kind of things, you know what I mean? Even though he's from New York, it was that kind of look that he had. So that he was a great character to play. And again, you know, that she found the texture of that shirt and the pattern of that shirt was amazing. I think it might have even been a Versace shirt or something like that. And then obviously because of the scuffle or whatever, we had to make replicas, so she made a few of them. Well, it was great fun. I do tend to keep clothes that I've wore for characters. Just, I don't know, that kind of, you know, the way you'd have, it's just a memento, I suppose, of, you know, that time and those particular characters. But yeah, this one was particularly, I got to act with my heroes here, didn't I? Do you know what I mean? I never thought as a kid that I'd be sat across the table from Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. So yeah, the way Marty works is it's always about truth and authenticity. And if it's working on the page, then great. But if it's not coming off the page properly in the room, You know, he gives you the freedom to be able to improvise within the context of the character and the situation. And what was great about this particular moment is it was good. It was okay. It needed to come alive a little bit, and you know, you have to remember. You know what I mean? I'm a kid from a block of flats, and I did have footy posters on my wall. I had Kenny Dalglish and like the Liverpool FA Cup winning team, but I also had posters of Robert De Niro, Al Pacino on my wall. So for me to be in a scene with these men blew my mind. I can never conceptualize that is ever going to happen. Beyond my wildest dreams am I ever, this 14, 15-year-old kid in that block of flats in Liverpool, he's never going to be sat across the table from Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. It's never going to happen. It's incomprehensible. It can't happen. So for me to be in that situation was mind-blowing. And then for Marty to pull me aside and say, free it up a little bit. Bring it alive. And I was like, what do you want me? And he was like, just improvise. I was like, can I? And he was like, yeah. I'll never forget it. There was a moment where we're doing the scene and I'm talking and we're all talking. And sometimes your own voice comes in your head while you're in it. And I looked across the table and you have to remember, these are my heroes. So I'm looking across the table, but I'm in character. And you look across the table and I look and Stephen's head goes, oh my God, this Robert De Niro. And I'm going, get away, get away, get away. And then I'm like, talking and still in the scene, and it's like, but we're in a scene with him and he doesn't even say anything, and I'm like, get away, get away, get away. But I'm talking as I'm doing it, and then we finished that one, and then he goes, right, free it up, and I was like, okay. So then when I went back in, we're doing it, we're talking, it's about me being 15 minutes late, and I'm like, that's all right, and he's like, no, it's 10. So I just literally went like that, but in the context of the character. But Stephen had already said it in my head, and I just went, what do you think, Frank? And looked right at him, and he just looked at me and he went, maybe, you know, in that beautiful way that he does. And he went, maybe 11 and a half. And it was the best line in the scene. It was so funny and it was so of the moment. And then we carried the scene on, and I was like, and then I kind of went to get up and leave and stuff. And I was like, and he says, and cut. And I've come back and I've gone, was that all right, lads? And they were like, what, you know, it came alive. It was great. And what I loved about that was the beauty of, they're my heroes, but they allowed me to have the freedom to be able to create and be a part of that process that we all brought to the table. Do you know what I mean? So they had no ego, no sense of ego. And I've worked with a lot of actors who aren't that good, who have massive egos. But those two who are my heroes had no ego at all. And they just wanted to allow whatever happens in the scene and make it the best for that moment it could be. So it was a huge honor. And as you can see, do you know what I mean? That little kid. Okay, so this character is Sugar Goodson from 1,000 Blows. Respect to this, that tattoo on the left of a raven, that's kind of my own tattoo. But what we did was we tweaked it to make it more relevant for the time. So Sean, our wonderful, amazing, unbelievable makeup designer, came up with another idea, and we kind of, what I wanted to do as well was I wanted him to have a tattoo of his mother on the other side to complement it. So we kind of, she found these beautiful tattoos of the time and of the period. So we went for that on that side. And then they were kind of a pair of velvet trousers and a sash as well. And the velvet trousers were kind of what he boxed in, what he fought in. What was good about them was they were made so they had like kind of stretchability, some kind of elasticity to them. But they were great. They were comfy. They were dead comfy. They were nice and comfy. They gave you lots of room to move and stuff. You don't really get to see the beauty of his costume with this particular photo, but everything that Sugar wears was made from scratch. So it was completely designed by our amazing costume designer. My boots were made by a cobbler. They were very expensive, the boots that Sugar had. They were lovely. And then just the textures that he wore, you know, the jacket that he has was a beautiful kind of thick texture, and it had the attention to detail was amazing. There was a bit of leather around the back of the collar, And we had a high collar, because I wanted that kind of high collar feeling, like a kind of working man's jacket, but the beauty of it and the colours, the kind of pale browns and greys and blues and stuff. Costume's integral for any character that you play, personally. And I love being a part of that creative process. And we had a lovely waistcoat, like a really nice, gorgeous velvet waistcoat. So it was great. I had a wonderful time being a part of the creating process with this. Tommy from Snatch, I look at this with fondness and lovely memories. I think it was about, it might have been 25 years ago now, I think. Verity was our costume designer. Verity was amazing. She is amazing. I know we got a lot of clothes from Dunhill, and a lot of those beautiful tailored fabrics, do you know what I mean? And the coat, I still have that coat. I have that coat at home in the wardrobe. And I remember we decided that he would try to be a carbon copy of Jason's character, kind of like his younger brother, and he emulated Jason. He wanted to be like him. Yeah, tailored suits, really beautiful high-end tailoring, which we did. Which again, the suit was made for me. Really brilliant pair of brown boots. I remember having these gorgeous brown shoes, and that gag where we put plastic bags over our shoes when we go across the field. That was great. Guy came up with that on a day. That was brilliant. That was great. Yeah, and I think the costume for Tommy was integral. Do you know what I mean? To who the character was as well. Oh wow! Again, look, beautiful detail, beautiful costumes. This is from Blitz, isn't it? Again, the textures, the jacket in that. You know, this was a lovely film to be a part of. Really was. To get to work with Steve was a huge honour and an absolute privilege. This is a man who is suffering heavily from PTSD. He was in the First World War, and he's carrying those scars. And again, it's the feeling of the jackets, the textures, the trousers that had little tears in them, and you know, the boots were obviously these kind of shoes that I wore for this. They already had a life and a history, obviously by somebody else. You put them on, and they already have this wealth of life, which sounds weird. But a shoe has a wealth of life, and you're putting your foot into history, I suppose, in a weird way. Because especially when, and again, I don't want it to sound pretentious in any way, shape, or form. But when you're working with wonderful costume directors and designers who meticulously want to get it right, you know what I mean, and search and these shoes have had a life because they're vintage shoes, you know what I mean? They were worn by someone, and it kind of it helps you immerse into that. I don't know, without it changes things. Look, I suppose it's like being a kid and, you know, dressing up, messing about, you know what I mean? I consider myself, and I said this earlier on, I consider myself a grown-up Mr. Ben. There used to be a cartoon when I was a kid, and it was called Mr. Ben, and he went into a shop and he'd get dressed up, and then he'd come out and he'd be in a different world. I think what I do as an actor is, you know, it's a joy for me personally that I get to dress up and create these characters and these people and go and live that life for a little bit, for the time period that I'm working on that particular job. So for something like this, which was very poignant, and what you have to remember as well, this whole film came about from a photograph. Steve saw a photograph of a mixed race kid at, I think it was King's Cross train station, on his way up north to, you know, the evacuation. And from that photograph, I've got it on my phone actually because he sent it to me. From that photograph, his imagination ran wild, and he wanted to tell a story, and he thought, I wonder how that kid's got there. What's this kid all about? And he wrote this wonderful script. It was an absolute joy to be a part of. Al Capone, again, you know, tailored suits, extravagant, flamboyant as he was. Hats, amazing hats. Shoes, again, the attention to detail with the costume designer was beyond. And for me, it's kind of, you know, it's helping that, it's that marriage between costume, makeup, and what we do on the script, and then bringing it all to life. For me, it's integral. It's a major part of the process for this as well. I put a lot of weight on for this part because he was a big fella, do you know what I mean? And I played him when he was young, so I remember eating loads of pizza and loads of pasta. And for this as well, we changed my eyes because he had brown eyes. And the scars on my face as well. He had 3 scars, which he got when he was a young lad, when he was 17. We dyed my hair black. We did a lot to transform my own image for this. And again, it's a joy. It's an absolute joy. I think that collaborative process with costume designers, makeup designers, is huge. It really is, because that's the thing. It's not an individual sport, and it's not a competitive sport. It's the brain power and the creativity of everybody else involved. That's why I love it. That's why I feel very blessed and very honored to be able to do what I do, because ultimately it's entertainment, you know what I mean? But we get the opportunity to really, it's the most creative we can be at that particular time, do you know what I mean? I don't really know what to say. It's a joy, but these kind of, because I remember, they bring back memories. These photos are bringing back memories of being in those roles. Why? The only reason I didn't keep the shoes is because we were looking to maybe do another series as we left. So you kind of leave things there as they are. If I'd have known it was the end, I would have, oh no. Do you know what? I think maybe I did have a pair of Al's shoes. Yeah, no, I did have a pair of Al's shoes, but they've gone now. It was a long time ago. Again, beautiful costumes, do you know what I mean? And the look of the whole series was magnificent. That time period anyway was very vibrant, you know what I mean? And the style was amazing. The cut of the suits, and yeah. Thanks for watching, and you can now watch 1,000 Blows on Disney Plus from the 21st of February.